someone can just let me know when that's showing, that would be great.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Oh, let's see someone starting recording. Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Welcome to the monthly sort of show and tell for the Open Digital Planning product workstream. For those who haven't met me, I'm Emily. I work at MHCLG. I'm the product lead for Open Digital Planning and the products that are being developed there. This is a special episode of Show and Tell today. We're going to be doing a demo of the end-to-end products. So we're going to be handing over to the product teams to do a run through that journey of a planning application. This is being recorded, so this will be available after the session. So if you are able to keep yourself on mute unless you are talking, that would be much appreciated. Feel free to put any questions as we go along in the chat, and our lovely product folks will be in there to help answer those questions. And we'll make the recording of this available soon after. So I thought I'd just do a very brief introduction to, as a bit of a refresher for, it's been a little while since we've done one of these end-to-end demos, and just a little bit of a recap of what this work is and why we do it. From the MHCLG program perspective, our goal is to make the planning system fit for the 21st century, and looking at the opportunities to help bring that forward. And we see the development of alternative software for development management is a way that we are able to help move the landscape and sector forward. One of many work streams going on in the programme, of course. Just run through, some people have seen these slides before. These slides also definitely need a bit of a refresh. Things have moved on quite a lot in the last few years thanks to fantastic innovation going on in the sector. But just to call out some of the main problems around there, the planning system is very paper-based, relies a lot on sort of manual processes, and that sort of cascades everything from up until the top sort of policy legislative level, all the way down to planning officers and residents who want to complete simple planning projects. And there are lots of opportunities to help improve known pain points and issues to make planning applications more correct at the point of submission, and help bring down those delays, which benefits everyone who uses the planning system. In Open Digital Planning, we talk about a variety of products. Hopefully you know what all these are. 3 out of the 4 are developed with Open Digital Planning. That is PlanX, the application and guidance submission service, the BOPS back office planning system, which looks at the assessment and processing of planning applications, and the digital site notice / digital planning register project that is looking at registration and consultation. And those products look at sort of neatly the 3 main parts of the planning process, all underpinned by the planning data platform, which is a platform in development at MHCLG, which helps provide digital and data data sources for tooling not only to the product and development in Open Digital Planning, but also beyond. So we like to call it out here because it's a very important part of what we call the ODP product stack. So that's enough for me to do a bit of an introduction. I am now going to hand over to the teams to run through, I believe it is a householder application. Do we have someone from Open Systems Lab on the line?
Yes, hello, Emily. Yeah, my name's Johnny. I'm one of the content service designers at Open Systems Lab, and I'll be doing the run through of the PlanX portion of this. Before I start, I'll just make sure my screen sharing. So go to this one. Nothing's changed for me, so can I have a quick emoji thumbs up or something if you can see the first screen? PlanX, zoom in.
Yeah, it's all good.
Just gonna make it a bit bigger. There we go. So as Emily said, PlanX is the sort of applicant-facing guidance and submission part of the stack. So it's effectively collecting the required information for the planning application and then submitting it to BOPS. So for the demo today, as Emily said, we're going to be running through a householder planning application. And the sort of scenario we're working with is that I'm imagining that I'm a homeowner wanting to submit an application for an address in Lambeth in London. I'm adding a single-story rear extension to create a larger living space at the back of the house. And because of the proximity of the boundary to the rear, I already know that I can't do this through permitted development. So I need to submit a planning application. I'm imagining that someone else has done the drawings and documents for me, but I want to actually submit the application myself. And in the process of doing that, I've not sought any pre-application advice from the council ahead of going through this process. So if we start the run through, so also for the purposes of this demo, and this will become clear, I will be using my colleague BOPS's email address rather than my own. But this first step, you're simply asked to enter an email address, which allows you to save this application at any point and return to it any time within 28 days of starting the application. To this email address, you will basically receive a magic link, which allows you to come back to it any time within that time period. And as you can see, as you start, you have the basically all the sections you're going to need to complete laid out for you. Property, about you, project, your application, and then some more detailed stuff about SIL, and then uploading application documents, reviewing, and payment. It's worth just mentioning at this point on this screen that the design of PlanX's public forms, it draws inspiration from the Gov UK design system and complies with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which means that applicants using assistive technologies are also able to fully navigate our services. So if we get cracking, so this first screen here, because we're sort of running this as a pilot, we have been inviting applicants to take part in user research as part of the process. So this is all about actually helping us receive feedback and continue to iterate and improve the service as real applicants and real users start to use it. So that's what this step's about. I'm feeling generous today, so I'm going to hit yes. And what I'm going to do is enter postcode for my address. By entering the postcode, it's going to suggest any addresses within that postcode, and I can also, just by starting to type the address, it will narrow it down to my address. And you might have seen there, it just quickly said fetching address data. What's happening in the background here is that PlanX has queried Ordnance Survey address-based premium. So using this address, what has been returned is a load of sort of address information, including the UPRN, the unique property reference number. And so all that information has been captured and could be included in the payload, which is basically the piece of information or set of information that's sent to BOPS or the back office system. So if we continue here, another piece of information that's been pulled down is actually the property boundary itself, the title boundary, from land registry. So it's identified that, it's identified what type of property it is as well, a terraced house. If that's incorrect, you do have the opportunity to change it, but this looks all correct to me. And then now PlanX is basically taking that title boundary and it's suggesting that that is also what the red line boundary, i.e. the project site boundary, should be. So this is something that you have to submit with any application, is your red line plan, location plan. If this is incorrect for whatever reason, you are able to adjust it if needed by dragging the corners, or if you really want, you can in fact draw it from scratch. You've still got context here, but I'll just quickly run around this.
I can.
And there we are. And it's also live updating the site area as we adjust that. If you have already sort of obtained a location plan, drawn a location plan yourself, you do have the option to upload that instead. But in lieu of that, this red line boundary sort of acts as a location plan for the purposes of the application. Now that we've sort of confirmed that geographic positioning of the project boundary, PlanX can then look up any constraints, a set of constraints that exist in digital format via the planning data platform. So it's checking currently more than 15 open data sets hosted on planning.data, and basically working out if any sort of planning designations apply to it based on that red line boundary. So this includes things like heritage designations, nature designations, flood risk zones, central activity zones, that kind of thing. You can see actually a set here of all the various things that have been checked against. And here we can see it has identified a couple of heritage designations. And this isn't just for information for the applicant. It's not just telling you this and then moving on. PlanX is using and remembering this information to then determine what further questions need to be asked of the applicant and what specific further information will be required with the application. So if I move on here. So finish this section, we're into About You now. So this question, are you applying on behalf of someone else? This, like in this situation, I'm applying for myself, I'm the applicant and the homeowner, but this does allow for agents to apply on behalf of clients. But today I'm going to hit no. Just going to move through these questions quite quickly. So just filling in personal information. Again, here's Stephen's email address. Continue here. For anyone familiar with the sort of template form, you might recognize some of these questions. And into our ownership declarations now. So you see here, this is the certificate A. So that's about you, done. And now into describing a project. So this is a sort of free text entry box. Again, if you're familiar with the template form, recognize this. This is what would be used as the site description. It's worth highlighting at this point, actually, on every step the user goes through, we try and offer more information, guidance wherever possible. So describe the project. Potentially, if you're a non-professional applicant, this might be one where you where some additional guidance would be helpful. So we have this sort of sidebar pattern where you can explain why this step is important, sort of if there's a policy reference for it, what it is, and then importantly in here, how is it defined? We can give some examples of what this should say. So I'm happy with that. I can move on. And these next couple of questions, in fact, not something you would see on the template form, but what we're doing here is basically filtering. We're asking these questions to just confirm, to filter that the project is within the scope for a householder application, to minimize the chance basically of an invalid application being submitted. So I just select these, it's an extension. And again, it's a few more template form questions. I can add in information about my materials here using what we call the list component. So nice and easy, you can just go each material in turn. This is a relatively simple project, so I'm just going to mention windows. Currently white PVC, but I'm going to be nice. Grey PVC aluminium, and then my bifold door, which is new. So just add that material there. Can keep going. If you've got more complex project, more materials, you can keep adding these. But that is done there. And I'm adding at 50 meters squared new floor space. Extension, so none of these apply. There's no trees in my back garden. I've got the householder biodiversity net gain sort of exemption confirmation. And then because we are in Lambeth, basically we went into a series of questions that are required by the London Data Hub. If I wasn't in a London borough, then I wouldn't be presented with these questions. And PlanX has already determined this based on the address that I entered earlier. It knows that I'm in Lambeth, so it's going to present me with the London Data Hub additional questions. Wherever we can, if there's a piece of information that is required by both the template form and the London Data Hub, we will only capture it once, but we can use that same piece of information to sort of answer both questions. So just going to carry on filling these out. Gonna get cracking quite soon. Ambitious program, I want it done by January. And a couple more London Data Hub related questions. And we're into the next question. So next section, sorry. So again, as I said at the start, I've not sought any pre-application advice from the council. If I had, there would be a couple of follow-up questions just to ask for the reference number so that the application can be linked to that pre-app advice back of house. But I did use the Find Out If You Need Planning Permission service to determine that I did in fact need planning permission for my road extension. The reason we're asking this is, as we develop the service or our PlanX services and the wider ODP ecosystem, we really want to be able to sort of keep an accurate picture of those inter-service user journeys that people might be going on. Do they start with a guidance service, come into a submission service, etc.? So this is sort of a really useful data point for us. And then we have a few questions here that are used to determine the fee. And then a question about community infrastructure levy. So this is used information already provided to determine sort of applicability for SIL, but we then need to ask the applicant to confirm the reasons as a declaration. So that's what this is doing here. So then declaring that. And the next few questions are related specifically to Lambert's local information requirements, local list, to determine what additional information the applicant should submit in the form of drawings or documents. So by combining some information already captured with a couple of additional questions here, we will be able to do that. We're linking out to policies, maps, those kind of things to support the applicant in actually being able to work this stuff out. Just going to move these quite quickly, just mindful of the time. And then I'm also given guidance here just to confirm that sort of the various things that my drawings will need to include in order for them to be considered part of the valid application. So here we have a step where we can upload and label. So if I've got my sort of folder of drawings and documents all ready to go, it's really simple just to upload them in bulk, and then I can effectively tag each one with the various pieces of information it shows. And it doesn't need to be one-to-one. So I might have, like I do here, combined plans and sections on a single drawing. I can tag that with all the various pieces of information that it shows. I'm going to go a bit Blue Peter here and pretend that I've just been through and tagged all of that. Can you see the same window now with it all ticked? Lovely. So I've been through, I've tagged everything that's required, which will enable me to move on. If one of these is missing, it will actually prompt me to upload the correct drawing before I can proceed. So as you can see, these are all in, these are all tagged. We're now into the final steps. So it's an opportunity here for me to review the whole application, change anything if I need to. And you can see here at the bottom, if I want to, I can print this page for my own records. But if I continue here, just for final declarations, and we're into payment and submission. So I can pay here, and the service uses the gov.uk pay system. If I am an agent, I can invite someone else to pay for the application, so the actual applicant if I want to. But in this instance, I'm going to pay myself. So we'll link me out to this page. Just going to use some dummy card details. This is not my actual bank card. Glad to know. Okay, confirm my payment. And there we are. The application's been sent. Yeah, sorry, here it is. I do have another opportunity to download the application, this time as a CSV format, and then I'm also given some next steps just to keep me sort of aware of actually what's going to happen to my application now. And at that point, the submission has been sent, so I'm going to hand over to, I believe, Stephen at BOPS.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, hi, Stephen here. Stephen Bond from Lambeth Council. Part of the digital planning team at Lambeth Council, working on the back office planning system, or BOPS. And I'm going to be doing a little run through of that today. So we are waiting for that case to come through from PlanX, which should come through in a second, but I'll just introduce you to what you would be seeing as the planning officer coming into BOPS. So this would be the homepage dashboard. On here, you've got a list of all the cases that are ready to be picked up and progressed, either assigned to you or ready to be self-assigned at the moment. You can filter by the application type. So we support all of the statutory application types in BOPS now, subject to actually receiving them. And we can also sort by where they're up to in the process as well. So have they been started at all? Are they waiting for people to come back with validation requests? Or are they waiting for sign off and so on? I'll see if that case has come through yet. Yep, it's come through. So this is the PlanX case that Johnny's just sent. So we can go in now and see how that looks. So this is the application landing page. We've got the key information here about the description, how long we've had it, whether it's assigned to anyone yet, and whether it's visible to the public. No valid date yet, and the consultation hasn't started either. So just going down here, we've got some key details like contact information and a summary in there. But the main thing on this page is the workflow. So it's been chunked up into 4 key steps, which we're going to go through all of these today. So we've got validation. So making sure that we've got everything we need to assess the case. Once we've done that, we can move into consulting neighbours or consulting teams in the council or outside the council. And then finally, the writing the case up and reviewing and signing it off. That's the sort of way we've set up this page. So it's got a nice logical flow. So there are several features to assist with validation. We'll just have a quick look at them. These are the documents that have come through from Johnny's submission there. I think they're just dummy files. They're not really proper planning drawings, but just for the purposes of this demo, we can see that they've come through. They've come through with the tags as they were assigned in PlanX. So this means that you should have a head start when you're reviewing these to check whether they've been tagged up properly as like, is this an elevation? Is this a floor plan? So on. We can enter the reference number. I'll just put something in for the sake of demo here. And then we can decide whether that's sensitive or not, whether it should be public. And we can decide now if this is going to appear on the decision notice, and we can also change our minds about that later on. It also asks us here, is the document valid? So by this, it means, does it meet all of the basic requirements for a document? So does it have a scale bar and so on? If we do select no, we can say what's the issue with it. And what's happening here is that this is preparing a request to the applicant. So I can say, this isn't a drawing. I need this to be a plan drawing, for example. The applicant's going to be sent some advice and a request to replace this drawing as well, which we'll see in a minute. That's the basic way that the documents work, though, so I'll just move on for the sake of time. We can also download those documents and then upload a redacted copy if anything needs to be redacted when we've checked through them. So that would be done by going in here, finding the document that you've made a redaction of, and then uploading the redacted copy. And just cantering through. So we also have crucial step, which is checking the digital red line boundary. So there wouldn't be a site location plan as a PDF standalone document in the case of a PlanX application. So we would receive it digitally, which is how we do all of magic with constraints and so on. So we want to make sure that this is around the right site. If it wasn't, for some reason, the applicant had drawn it around just the house or something like that, this works similar to what Johnny's just shown you in PlanX, where you can redo that if you so wish. For whatever reason, provide that explanation. And again, this is populating a request that's going to go out to the applicant. There's other validation steps or steps that happen at this point in the process as well when you've initially received something. So check the description. I can ask for changes to the description here if it's not right. That would be generating another kind of request. But for the sake of this, we'll just say it's fine. And we can also add in the reporting type as well, which is going to be filtered down by the fact that this is a planning application, not a lawful development certificate, and what we already know from the data coming through PlanX, that this should be Q21 for reporting purposes. So again, some head starts. We can see those constraints came through as well. The listed building, conservation area, which is coming from the planning data platform, so that's good. We can check the fee. This looks right or not. Does in this case, but if it didn't, then we could also generate a request for the applicant to give them advice about how to make the payment for the balance of the fee. We have no information about potential SIL liability from PlanX. I think we might be a bit out of step with PlanX on this, so something we'll look into, but we should get that information about whether it looks like it's SIL liable or not, again, for that head start. And at this point, the validation officer can flag whether it looks like it's liable for SIL. As a householder, it's not likely to. And we have other information in here as well. If an EIA was relevant, we could go in, say that it's required. That would extend the application determination period and so on. But in this case, it's not. and the ownership certificate details. We can just see briefly here that came through as certificate A, which looks correct for this case and is what we'd expect for a household. If it wasn't, again, we can request details from the applicant. Once I'm happy and I've gone through all of these different tasks, BOPS will assume if there's validation requests that you're going to make it invalid for obvious reasons. And if there weren't any validation requests, then it would assume that it's to be made valid. So this is to avoid making mistakes. I've made a decision that this is invalid now, and you can see in the banner that the application has been made invalid and the email has been sent out to the applicant to request those issues are addressed. So the issues that are here. And I will show you how that looks for the applicant. Okay, so this is the email that would come through. Hopefully you can see Outlook now, but if you can't, then please shout. You see the email here with a link saying we need more information to process your case, and this is where you need to go. If I open that up, you should now see the back office planning system header and a new page which has a task list on. Again, similar to what we saw in PlanX, setting things up nice and clearly. We've got a status, we've got a clear call to action about what we need to do. For this one, we said that we needed an actual drawing. So we'll be doing that. I don't have a drawing to hand, so I'll just ignore that for now. But for the red line, I can see here was what I originally submitted, and here's what the officer's saying I should do. And if I agree with that, I can say yes, and that will resolve it in the system. If I did have a drawing to hand here, it would just replace the one that was in there in the system, but I don't have one. So I'll just gloss over this. So back in BOPS then, I can see that the applicant responded on the red line change, which is great. So that will resolve that issue. I've changed my mind about doing this request for replacement document, so I can explain in here, this was a mistake, and cancel that request. And that will mean that there's no outstanding issues. So in check, I can see all the validation requests have been resolved, and then BOPS is now allowing me to make the application valid, which is going to be marked as valid from the day it was received, which is today, or when we had that, sorry, when we had the information back about the red line. So the application is now marked as valid. I'll quickly go through the consultation step. So in here, we've separated out the different parts of the consultation process. If I go into select and add neighbors, I can see I'm going to be picking out the adjoining neighbors on a map, which I'll just do very quickly, show you how that's done. So I select it as an extent on the map. If I want to not include somebody, this is the list below is kind of dynamic. So if I make it smaller, it will remove the relevant neighbors. If I make it bigger, it will include more people. So this is quite a flexible solution. If I do need to drag over and include the school over the road, should be possible. Yeah, I can just widen the extent like that. So it's quite responsive, which is good. That's going to then produce a list of the people I'm sending the letter to, which I can preview on this page, but would include all of the basic information about the case. And it will include a link to the public register as well, where members of the public can go on and make their comments, which we'll come to in a minute. It's going to default to 21 days period for them to respond. And I can see this has now gone out using GovNotify. They'll print the letters and send them to that list of addresses. We then move through the rest of the consultation process. So I can add internal teams. Here I've got the constraints. So that is a sort of prompt to remember who to consult about that. Will guide me about who might be relevant. So I can add consultation with conservation and urban design, for example. Once I've added my consultees, I can again send out the emails. I can preview, and I could edit this as well. And if I need to do reconsultations in the future, that's also possible through this same feature. So if I go back in there after the initial consultation, I can see this, is this a reconsultation step? So I can add a little message, or I can just say, it's a reason for, here's the reason we're reconsulting you. And finally, send a site notice. So I can either do this on the spot, which I'll do for the purpose of this demo. So we've got today's date. Or I can send it to the internal team to post it. If that's what happens at my council, I can send it to the applicant if that's relevant as well. Hold on. So we've got, for now, just a very basic site notice, but in the near future, we'll be looking at how we can improve this, make it a bit more modern, including QR codes and so on. So if you're interested in that work, do watch this space. But at that point, the consultation would have started and the application should then be visible on Digital Planning Register. So I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Nora to talk about how that looks.
Hi everyone, thanks Stephen. I am Nora and I work for Camden Council. I am part of the digital planning team and leading on the digital planning register and digital scientist projects. And I'm going to do a little demo for you now to show you how this application came into digital planning register. Let me know if you can see my screen. Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, all good.
Great. So on the screen here, you can see all the councils that are currently on staging in digital planning register. And we're going to go on Lambeth and check if we have received, and here it is, 0806 application. We have a slight issue with the applications currently coming in terms of the time when the consultation starts. So this here should say in consultation in progress rather than assessment in progress, as from BOPS is set up to start consultation from the next day. So I'm going to show you on an application that me and Stephen have started yesterday to show you how we can send the comments. But on this page here, on the application I just got from Stephen, I can show you that this generates, so DPR generates automatically an application form, and this is to answer to some of the questions that I saw in the chat in relation to the site location plan. So here you can see this showing, this should be like the OS map. This is showing the information that came in through PlanX, the public information that can be published. Oh, here is better. So all the information that's been submitted and is public information that you will see in an application form, as you would normally would be in here. So this is basically the application form for this case, which includes the site location plan as well. But here in the DPR, you can see we have the status and the application time, and we have this progress bar, which provides the public with more information about where the application is at within the planning process and gives a bit of detail about what stage, what they mean in terms of determination and actions from the councils in relation to that. And also we have the contents we found from different users that is useful for them, especially when you get a long application with a lot of documents and a lot of comments, to have this contents slide on the side to be able to just quickly go to different pages on the different parts of the page. Just to mention, DPR is also WCAG accessible, so it's fully accessible AA currently. So we just got that accreditation recently, so we're quite proud of it. Now I'm just gonna go to, that is the application form. I'm just gonna go to the application that I did yesterday with Stephen to show you how to submit a comment. So for this one, we submitted yesterday, so the time has come now to show the consultation in progress. This is something we're gonna rectify. We're gonna allow people to comment as soon as application is valid online. So to comment on application, so you see it's quite a big green button there to inspire people to click on it. Maybe I want to look at the drawing before, so I'm just going to show you how the drawings open up. That's how it is. So it's quite easy to navigate. So I'll comment on the application. Here I can see some more information about what I should consider in my comments as a neighbor, what will be taken into account by officers, and what issues are not necessarily a planning matter. So I'm going to start the response to this. I feel quite neutral about it. So this asks us how we feel about this development, and we have just 3 options to make it nice and clear for the public. How can they provide their comments on it? So I would say it's neutral, and here we have different topics which we found they relate with more common planning material considerations, and they are the order is not particularly important. They are just added randomly. But for the purpose of this, I would say in terms of the natural light and privacy of neighbors, I will comment on that. And also it gives me a bit of information about what happens to the comments. So what the case officer considers, again, in terms of material considerations, and what will happen with them afterwards, and the fact that we don't acknowledge receipt. So if you want to get in touch, you need to speak to the council directly. And this is to, so for each individual topic, I will provide some information. I will say, I don't think this will impact me because I'm neutral. And also you can see it gives you a bit of information to know what this is in relation to what an officer will expect to see there. And then in relation to the other topic that I chose to comment on, impact on privacy of neighbors, I can say this is a great proposal. Very random, but yeah. So we send this, then you have to add your name, postcode, email address, and telephone number. There is some information here about what happens to the data that is provided and what data is now made public, and so on, in reference to the GDPR guidance. I continue on this. So this is just an overview of what I selected before. You can see the 2 topics that I chose and what I wrote for each of them. And now I will be submitting this case back to BOPS. And again, I have this information about what happens to my data, just in case I want to double check before I press accept and send. So now I've sent this back to BOPS. Stephen, would you mind checking if you received it?
Yeah, operations control will now check if it's been received.
So it's the 8041. Yeah, great.
Thanks, Nora. So when comments are coming through, we can go in and see some of these have already been added this morning. As we said, we were sort of populating this and filling it out a bit. So in BOPS, you can see the unredacted comments and the email addresses and that kind of thing. So we can go in. I'm not sure which one you just, was it this one? I don't think this will impact me. I think this is a comment that you just made. So in here, I can decide if this needs to be redacted or not. And once I'm happy with that, I can just press redacted and it will go, and I can see. And BOPS will also keep a record there of who was redacting it. So that's that interaction with the DPR. I'm now going to try and canter through the assessment process. So this is effectively BOPS replacing writing up a report, as it were. When the officers are in here, they have access to all of that information, so they can see the red line, they can see the documents, and they can see all of the responses to the questions in PlanX as well. And they can start documenting their assessment. So starting off with some basic questions like, does the description match the development? If you're answering no to these questions or the plans consistent with each other, it's going to give us prompts to go and use those features in BOPS to agree on a description change or request documents are replaced. And that's about keeping everything within the system. Somebody did ask in the chat, I've noticed, can we request a change to the red line later on in the process? So yeah, if you did notice at this point as officer, it's been handed over, if that's how it works in your council, and you're looking at it fresh, you can say, yeah, actually, I still need the red line to be changed. So that can happen throughout the process. So that's the kind of call to make those checks there. We'd also be reviewing what had happened earlier on in the process. So was there a site notice and a press notice? And if there were, has the evidence and have the sort of consultation periods ended as well. So that's part of the assessment process, is double checking that. Double checking an ownership certificate, which we saw earlier on. So similar, the same information would be in there, and we can check whether we consulted the right people internally. We've also got site history here. This isn't the best example because there isn't any site history in the database for this case, but manually, it's possible for the officer to manually enter details of previous cases, and we're hoping to be able to just pull through everything that's everything that's recorded for that site, and that the intention is that this manual area would be for cases that are maybe adjoining the site, and we can explain how they link to the case, or yeah, that kind of thing. We can enter details of the site visit in there as well, and say whether that took place, the date, whether we visited the neighbor or whether we visited the site itself, and then upload our photographs in here. And then we get into the sort of report writing areas. So these are free text areas to say what the proposal is about, what the site, basic facts about the site are. So just to show you that. Describe the relationship to building. So is it a detached property or what have you? Some sort of flexible spaces to write that kind of stuff. That would be in the introduction to an officer report. We can add a summary of the consultation. If there were consultee responses, they would be here, and then I could just quickly summarize them. And this is a better example because we've got some neighbor responses. So I can, on this page, I can summarize any neighbor objections that came through. And this is actually structuring that around the topics that were highlighted in the DPR as well. So privacy, is it about light? Is it about design? So it's kind of creating a structure to how the officer goes through those comments using the structured data that we got from the digital planning register and that way of making comments. Which could be helpful for making the reviewing that speedier. And then we'd move on to putting in our assessment against planning policies and context. So Lambeth is set up already here. We've got details in the setup of BOPS about all our policies, and we've got our design code and so on populated in the background. So it's all set up and ready to go here. If I want to make an assessment about amenity or how this is impacting on the neighbours, I can go in and choose which policies are relevant from my local plan and then enter the details as I would into a report here. So no acceptable impacts. This one, and then the conclusion would be complies with policies. Just for the purpose of this demo, just to quickly put something in there and show you, this is the kind of thing that would be what that you'd be using to say whether policies are complied with or so on. The extension is subordinate, complies with policy. And this means that we've then got structured data about which policies were engaged about the application, and we can move on in the future to be able to monitor which where policies are coming up and report on that and get some insights as well. Just for an example. Once I've done all of my assessing against policies, I can then start putting together my draft decision notice, which is completing the assessment step. Here, I'd be picking out documents that I want to appear on the decision notice. If they've got the reference entered in, which is what I did earlier on here, then I can choose whether they're publicly available and on the decision notice here very quickly. But we haven't done that as in the earlier steps of the demo, and that's why it looks like this. But I want these to appear on the decision notice, so I just select them, mark that as complete, and they're the only documents that are going to appear on the decision notice. Moving into the recommendation, this is going to play back any of the information that I've entered and what's been drawn together about the application. So the constraints, did I enter any site history? I didn't, so it's showing that there's no site history. And then I've got the playback of those policies and my assessment against that from the previous step, and which documents will be on the notice. There's a warning here saying that the consultation is still ongoing. Obviously, this is a demo, but this would be in the real world, you'd be waiting for the consultation process to end. So there is a prompt there that something's not quite right, which is some of the safeguards we've been designing BOPS around. What's your recommendation? We're going to go for a refusal in this case, which is a bit confusing because I've just said that they comply with the policies, but this will make sense in a minute. The development plan not complied with, or whatever your reason for refusal is going to be typed in here. Save that as mark that as complete. If it was an approval, I can add in conditions and request agreement to pre-commencement conditions or add informatives as well. But because it's a refusal, we won't be doing those steps. But there is a recording of the previous end-to-end demo where you can see that if you want to. And just as a final sense check, I can see everything on this page, decision notice and assessment, the assessment report and steps that I've completed. And once I'm happy with that, I can submit it. And now it's in the awaiting determination phase. We're ready for a manager to sign off or not. at this point, I need to change to be a manager account or a reviewer account, which is going to be someone who would be looking at applications with a view to signing them off. I should be able to find that case now with Stephen assigned to it. And this is how that exact application would be looking to the reviewer. So looks slightly different here. They've still got the 4-step process, but they can go in and do the review and sign off. So now at the top, we've got a clear, this is the recommended course of action from the officer. So we've got that it's going to be a refusal. On here, we can see the site, which is in red there, and we can also see the neighbors that we've consulted. So I've got a map here. I can see whether they responded as well. Did they object? So that's handy. And then just summarizing what information is held as well. So we've got the constraints I can flick through. I can see whether we sent letters to the neighbor. This would say whether it was printed definitely or not, but because this is the testing system, it's just in the printing state, but it would say when the letter was actually sent in the real world. And we can see if there was an objection, as I was just showing on the map, and any consultees that have responded would be summarized in here, site history, and then quick access to plans and documents as well. The review step goes through and looks at checking whether you're happy with the extent of the neighbors who've been mentioned in that map above. Has there been the right site notice and press notice? If not, I can send it back to the case officer. And other steps here, which we think are relevant to the manager. So is it liable for SIL? The manager is going to make or can make an overall decision about that for reporting purposes. And as part of that recommendation step, the officer has said that this doesn't need to be decided by the committee. So there's a sort of opportunity to think about this for the manager as well, whether they can make this delegated decision. And then we can see the individual policy assessments. So I can quickly go through those. If I want to go in and edit them, I can go in and directly add context or content. And then as I'm signing that off, I can just make quick changes like that. Or I can send it back to the officer to redo the work. So that's really speedy look through review. I'm going to sign the decision off, and then we're going to just wrap up after looking at appeals and how that will look in DPR as well. Again, I've got that prompt about, are you sure you want to make this decision? But we're just doing this for the purpose of the demo, so we are going to go ahead and make a decision. And once I've signed off the recommendation, I can send out the decision to the applicant. This is how it's going to look. And this is the date of the decision as well, which is today's date. Now, once I've done that, the email goes out to the applicant to say application has been refused, and here's a copy of the decision notice, as is all sort of confirmed here. We have built, for the purposes of our pilot, a very minimal solution for logging appeals as well, which we wanted to just include at the end. So I'm just going to add details of an appeal here. The reason it's been made is because permission was refused. Alternatively, it might be that permission, the decision wasn't made in time or something like that. but in this case, that's the reason. And then you'd add appeal documents as well. So if you have details of when that's getting lodged, you then, as the appeal gets made valid, you might receive a start letter from PINs, or you should receive a start letter from PINs. So you could upload the details of that. And this is populating what you will see in the register in a second. So essentially, as each step progresses, oh, I see. Okay. It's going to add further information to the register. But I think, okay. I don't have the best example documents to hand, so I'm just going through. So it would have gone through those different steps of being validated and lodged and started, and then eventually you get to the point where an appeal is being decided by the inspector as well. So in this case, we're going to say it eventually gets allowed. And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to hand you back over to Nora, and she's going to show you how this would look in the register. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take you to the register now. Some of the statuses have already appeared. But before we look at the status, I just want to take you down to the comments just so you can see how this look like. So through user testing, we found that particularly younger people, which are those that want to get more involved in planning, are really concerned about showing their name and address in comments. So we decided that the comments are going to come in without a link to a name of a person. So they come with numbers, and this is the last comment that I've sent on this application and that Stephen has redacted. So you can see it here. And just to show now the stages that Stephen has been doing in terms of appeal. So you can see the statuses have changed. So the status now is appeal decided, council decision was refused, and appeal allowed. You have the progress has changed to show the consultation, the council decision made, and the dates of the appeal, lodge, valid, started, and decided. You can also see here the decision notice that has been generated from BOPS side. Taking a while. Here it is. That's the decision notice that I got from BOPS with the site location plan. The drawings have been checked and the reason for it being refused. And you can also see the appeal reasoning here that permission was refused. I believe the latest drawing that Stephen has attached in terms of the appeal, it would be this one. So this will show what the appeal decision would be, as is provided for BOPS. And I think that's it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Sorry,
you
we're
all.
running time.
Thank you, teams, for that really excellent demo. Really shows all the improvements from last time for those who saw the ones a few months ago. So as we put in the chat, recording of this demo will be online, so make sure that that is shared around. And yeah, thank you to our teams for that demo today. The next show and tell will be on the 23rd of April, so hopefully see more of you there. Hope that everyone has a good rest of their day, and catch you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.